Welcome to the Hyper Guy Motivational Podcast. Thank you for being here today. I have an amazing guest on. I met her a couple years ago, and I've wanted to have her on for a while now, but I had to wait till she graduated because she was extremely busy doing her academics and sports. My guest today is Miss Olivia Lau, and I have to tell you, thank you so much. She's an Oakland native, which I really, really appreciate. She has her bachelor's of science in biomedical engineering. She was on the crew team at USC for 4 years, and she also was on a crew team prior to that, but we're going to get into that later. She currently works as an engineer for Stryker, which is a medical device company, and she also does work for Engineering Tomorrow, which we're also going to get into. It's a nonprofit that does wonderful, wonderful work in schools across the country. And so we're going to get into that. So it's just amazing for to have you here. So thank you, Olivia, for being on today.
Yeah, of course. Super happy and super excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, and I know you're super busy, and I'm just really, really excited to have you on because um, rarely do you get to meet somebody. When you and I met, we met at USC, and it's pretty amazing because you're a female in the sciences, and you're from Oakland, which
Yeah.
which I don't see much of. So I was like, oh my god, and you're like this wonderful athlete. Can I ask you, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Bay Area native. I'm born and raised here. So, I've proudly lived in Oakland my whole life, obviously, besides the 4 years that I was in college. But yeah, love it here. And so, really happy that this is my home.
So I want to get into that because I really like you've always been that way. And when I talk to you, your sister is also a USC student, and actually she's getting her master's now. But what was your like growing up in Oakland, and where did you grow? What part of Oakland did you grow up in?
Yeah, so I'm here in like the Rockridge area. So I really enjoyed growing up here in Oakland. I think that one thing that I was always like really fond of, really proud of was how diverse our city is. And like growing up, I always, I felt that this city had a sense of community that didn't really exist elsewhere. I mean, granted, I can't really know that because I lived here, but I really felt that there was like a strong sense of community in Oakland. And I think that a lot of that was because of how accepting people were of different people's backgrounds. And so I saw that constantly growing up. I think that um, constantly being surrounded by other students, other peers, and friends who came from different backgrounds, I think that's what made Oakland really special and what I really liked growing up.
It's interesting because you hear so many negative things about Oakland. And growing up in Oakland, there's certainly the school system is not that great, and there's parts of Oakland that are can be pretty rough.
Mhm.
And you always hear about the dangerous part of Oakland. But one of the things I really like about Oakland, one of the strengths is what you articulated previously, which is it's extremely multi-ethnic.
Mhm.
And so when you were growing up, can you describe what that was like to be in a very multi-ethnic community in Oakland? And, what were your peers?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to think back to, my time in high school. So I went to Oakland Tech and, the school is huge. And so I just, I got the chance to be in classes with folks from all different backgrounds and all different ethnicities. So I had friends of all different races and like, I think just being able to be surrounded by them and like learning about their cultures is something that you can't really get elsewhere necessarily. And so I think it really enriches your experience because you have a much broader view of the world and you can bring that with you to everywhere else that you go. You're more accepting of other people's differences, I feel like, because you've been surrounded by it your whole life. And I think in general, like the Bay Area community is a place where people are more accepting of differences. They're accepting of different people's views and in my experience, like they're not as harsh to judge, I think that they have more of an open mind. So I think like that whole mentality, if you have that around you growing up, it influences you later in life to keep that same mentality.
So do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have two sisters. So I have a twin sister, which is the one you mentioned. And then I also have an older sister. Yeah.
And what was your relationship growing up? When you grew up, who were your role models and what was your relationship like with your parents?
Yeah, so I mean, this one's interesting. Like, I feel like I didn't really have a strong person that I would say, like, this is my role model. But I really looked up to my parents all the time. And I mean, I still do. I think that, like, if there's anybody, I feel like they're my role models because, like, just the hard work that I saw growing up from them was always something that I really, really admired. And I think, like, looking back now, I feel very fortunate, that I had them, and I can see now, like, all the sacrifices and the work that they put in to raise, like, my sisters and I, and like, I aspire to be like that. I think that what they really showed me is, like, how much hard work really matters, and, like, I always felt that, they supported me, they showed up for me, like, they were always there, and so yeah, I mean, I aspire to be like that.
Yeah, can you tell me more about what, like, your parents, were they originally born in Oakland, or have they always been in Oakland? What made them come to Oakland, or have they always been here?
Yeah, I mean, no, my parents are born in Hong Kong, but they moved. They actually came to the U.S. for college, and so or for, like, their masters. So yeah, that's when they came to the U.S. And then after after like their college years, then their masters, then they moved up here into the Bay Area,
So where did they go to school?
UCLA. Funny.
Oh, are you kidding me? So they went, so you end up, so both your parents, they went to, did they meet at UCLA?
Yeah,
And then you end up going to USC.
yeah.
So,
Funny.
so, so you guys have a difficult relationship when it comes to rooting for teams.
Yeah, well, I they say that the rivalry, like, when you're in like master's programs, isn't as strong. So I don't know. I mean, sure.
So when you were growing up, what did your parents do? And then, did they encourage all of you to go to school? What was that like growing up?
Yeah, they definitely really encouraged, like, academics and, being strong in academics. I think that they really knew, or they wanted us to know that, like, working hard academically would be really beneficial later in life. And so yeah, they always pushed us to be our best school wise. And then they also, like, really supported us in extracurriculars. um, I played piano since I was 5, so that was probably, like, a huge part of my childhood and, like, growing up and through high school. So yeah, they always encouraged us to, seek out extracurriculars and, like, really be passionate about it, and, don't do things halfway. Like, you really want to put yourself all the way in there and, like, see how far you can take that.
So why did your parents, I'm just curious. So what did your parents do? And then why did they choose Oakland?
Yeah, I mean, so my dad is in, like, the software development. Yeah, he does software development, and then my mom works for Oakland, the Children's Hospital, UCSF Benioff. So yeah, she does research, and she helps the lower income communities. So like, both of my parents have always been huge, like, inspirations for me in terms of what I wanted to do for work. In terms of why they chose Oakland, that I don't really know. I know, like, I know they like the Bay Area. I don't know exactly why they chose Oakland, but I'll have to ask.
Yeah, we got the fall. And I know you are a huge Bay Area sports fan. You don't play when it comes to sports. I know you're a big Warriors fan for sure, right?
Yeah.
Are you a Raider fan too?
Well, not too much. I mean, I like watching basketball more.
So you're solely a Warrior person.
Yeah.
For what about football?
Well, I like watching college football more than NFL. So, I mean, I'll support the 49ers.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I know, because our Raiders left us. So what was your relationship like with your sisters growing up?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we had a pretty strong relationship. Um, I mean, my twin and I feel like we have a pretty good relationship. Um, we pretty much did everything together growing up. So I think this year with her back in school and I'm now working, like it's kind of been our first year apart. We didn't actually choose really to continue like pretty much hand in hand our whole lives until now, but it just kind of happened that way. And I'm happy. Like we didn't really plan to go to the same college, but we were like, if it happens that we both both want the same college, then we'll be happy at the same school. But if we separated, that's fine too. And I mean, growing up, like when we were in elementary school, we actually requested to be in separate classrooms just so that we could have like different experiences and whatnot. And like, we obviously spend the rest of the day not in school together. So I think I really like that. I mean, I think it taught like a little bit of autonomy, and so we didn't like fully depend on each other. But I think that, having the experience of college together was also really nice. Like you always have a friend and you're never alone. So I think that was really great.
When did you both start getting into sports? Like what kind of activities did you do? Both of you do when you were younger?
Yeah, so we actually like my parents got us into sports pretty young. So in elementary school, like we played soccer, and then after soccer, then we played some tennis, and then we got into swimming for a couple years, and we were swimmers for like competitively for a couple of years. And then high school is when we started rowing. Yeah. And definitely like childhood years, we weren't really good at those sports, but it was just like a hobby and, to keep us active. And yeah.
And when you were younger, did you have any idea when you were younger that you were going to be an engineer? Because being an engineer for a female, and we talked about this earlier, it's not female heavy.
Yeah.
So it tends to be more male. So when you were going through elementary school, were you always good in the sciences? Is that what you wanted to do? Or did you know what you wanted to do in life?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did not know what I wanted to do in elementary school. I did like math. So like I remember liking math, and I think like my parents definitely influenced me in terms of like what I thought I would go into. I mean, both of them are in like STEM essentially. So I kind of always knew I would get into a STEM field. I wasn't particularly sure if it would be engineering or, if it was going to be a doctor or a nurse or, anything else, or a scientist. But yeah, I knew I would probably go into STEM. Yeah.
Can you explain what STEM is?
Yeah. So I think it stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So I should probably know that. But yeah, so science and math and engineering fields. So yeah, I mean, I think throughout elementary school and high school, like I definitely gravitated towards those subjects.
And what kind of things when you were growing up, you said you were involved with sports. Did you guys do anything on the academic? Were you always into academics even when you were younger? How were you balancing your life out?
Yeah, so I think pretty much all my life, I guess, I've been involved with like three things. So academics, sports, and music. So since I started piano when I was 5, and music was definitely a much bigger portion of my life than sports were. Sports were kind of just a hobby, but music was like an everyday thing. And ever since I was pretty young, like when I started playing, like it would be a lot of practice time, and so it was pretty time consuming. But I don't regret it, and I think like just in terms of balancing it all, I just had to get pretty good at time management, and it helped that a lot of things were like, oh, I have piano lessons, so it's like this is a block of time that I'm going to be dedicating to piano, or this is, sports practice. So it helped me like block out different chunks of my day, and then from there, I think I really learned how to distribute the rest of my hours to the other things that I have to do, if it's like homework or, practicing piano. So I guess just time management throughout. And yeah.
So what was high school like for you? You said you started, I'm sure you started taking AP classes and stuff like that. So how did you balance, I guess, I know, and this is what we're going to get into later on about this too, is you were good enough in crew, you and your sister, to actually to row at USC, which has a great crew team as well. So how did you know that when you went to college, I want to go ahead and row as well? Did you get recruited? What made you choose USC?
Yeah. So actually, so it's funny, in high school, I was a rower. So on our Oakland Tech rowing team. And then in college, I was actually a coxswain. So there's like two different roles in the sport of rowing. You can be a rower or a coxswain. And I can explain that in a second if we're unfamiliar, but I didn't know that I wanted to continue with rowing. I wasn't sure about it when I chose USC. I just knew that whatever school I chose for college, I wanted it to be an option. So I wasn't recruited. My sister and I actually walked on to the USC women's rowing team, and went through the walk-on process, and then was able to earn a roster spot there as coxswain. So like super fortunate and like very happy that we were able to go through that whole experience. And it definitely helped that we had the rowing background from our high school years. So yeah, definitely an amazing part of our USC experience.
So, okay, so you were in high school. What kind of challenges did you have in high school? Was it hard were your classes challenging? And Oakland Tech we're still in Oakland, so there's going to be challenges there. Were your classes small? Were you encouraged to go to college? Did you know you were going to go to a good college? And what was that process like getting to USC? Did you apply to other colleges? Did you know what you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I actually think that I was really fortunate because Oakland Tech is actually in my eyes, it's a really good school. Like, I think that Oakland Tech provides a lot of really good resources for you. And like to address, if I felt the support needed to go to college, like I would say yes. Like Oakland Tech is, a public school here in Oakland, but I think what makes it really unique is that our high school, it had academies. So essentially, like starting sophomore year, you can apply for a different academy. And so there's like engineering academy, there's health academy, fashion academy, biotech. Like it was essentially like you can explore a major. And I think, so I was in the engineering academy. And I think that this really allowed me to have, a little level up in terms of applying for college because I already had some engineering experience just from the classes I was taking. And I think like being in the academy, not just engineering academy, like just being in any academy, like the school administration gave you the support to continue in that field, like whether it was health or fashion or engineering, like they gave you the resources. And I think, they encouraged scholarships, they encouraged other programs that you can get into to help. So I feel really fortunate that Oakland Tech had all that for us.
So when you graduated, you had good grades, obviously. Did you apply to where did you apply besides USC?
Yeah, so I applied to like a handful of UCs. Most of the schools that I applied to were in California. I applied to like UW, stretch schools, MIT, but yeah, mostly in California.
So how competitive were you, like when you did you get accepted to most of the colleges you applied to, and what was your experience like applying for these different universities?
Yeah, so actually, like if I'm being honest, I actually didn't get into as many as I wanted to, as many as I expected to, or not like expected, but like thought I could, USC gratefully was one of my top choices anyway, so I was really happy when I got the news for that one. So for me, like it was kind of my obvious choice because I'd always like really wanted to go there. So it was tough getting the rejections from the other schools. just because it limited my options. But but as soon as I got the acceptance from USC, I was pretty happy and kind of knew I would go with that one.
Well, yeah, USC is an amazing school. What do you think? Because your application was probably pretty stacked because you were doing music and you were doing sports, and you had a good grade point average. In retrospect, what advice would you give somebody if they were applying to universities? Do you have any idea of why maybe you weren't accepted?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've given this a ton of thought, but I do think that one thing that I wish I would have done differently in the application process is to just diversify the majors that I was picking, because engineering, of course, is pretty selective. And I think for all the schools that I applied to, I only applied biomedical engineering or like bioengineering. And so I think like if you aren't completely sold on a major, I think that it's beneficial to like kind of spread it out. And, if you're also interested in either a different type of engineering or maybe something else in general, like I was thinking about business, and I was kind of too scared to take that step because I'd been in the engineering academy in high school and I felt like engineering was my path. But if I would have applied business, like maybe I would have gone into a different school that I wanted. So I think just diversifying your options out there, or maybe even going undeclared, I think could help.
Now, did your sister apply to the same schools as you?
Not completely. We definitely did have overlap, but I applied to maybe 2 or 3 schools that she didn't, and she applied to like 2 or 3 that I didn't.
So what made you choose USC?
Yeah, I mean, USC has so many great things about it. I could go on and on, but I think, of course, academically, like I think Viterbi, the School of Engineering here at USC, is really strong. But the main thing that I know really pushed me towards USC is actually the Trojan network, like the alumni network that we have here at USC. I think like I had heard all these stories about how strong this network really is. And it was something that I thought, would pay off after my experience at USC. And I think obviously this is just my first year out of USC, but I can already feel that like the alumni network, the alumni here at USC, like they really want to help out other alumni. They want to help out current students. And so just having this, family around you wherever you go in life, I think is something that's really special.
Can you describe your first year at USC? What was your experience like entering? Like I said, you're entering a field that, like I said, I'm going to tell you now, I'm so proud of you coming from Oakland and you went directly into an engineering program like at USC. What was that transition for you like, and did you find it challenging while playing sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the aspect of athletics definitely made it more challenging than it would have, way more challenging than it would have been had I not been doing athletics. I think in high school, I mentioned to you that I had already started getting used to like really having to schedule my time out and to have like really good time management because of school and rowing and piano. And so I think that I had that like under my belt pretty well. But when you go to college, like things are so different because you don't have, a daily 8 to 3 p.m. schedule and then extracurriculars. It's not like that. It's like, you have classes from 8 to 10 a.m. and then a 2-hour break. And then you have more classes at night or something like that. And then adding on the rowing schedule, which is pretty strenuous. It's like, I mean, it's like 20 to 25 hours a week. It's pretty much like doing a full-time job. So I think the biggest challenge freshman year was just learning how to schedule everything that I wanted into my work, into my week, So I think it's less structured than I had before. So that was the main difference. it wasn't as structured as high school. So learning how to make sure that I got my homework done in like the periods that I had in between classes and practice was big.
Can you give me like a typical day? Because I know rowing's typically really early in the morning. So
Yep.
give me one of your typical days, and what was your fitness and health routine like at the same time as you're balancing class? So just run me through your typical day.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so usually, so all of the weekdays, the bus to take us down to the Port of LA, which was where we had our rowing practice, left campus at 6 a.m. So I'd wake up around 5:30 and then, get my morning routine done, go as fast as I can to campus, and then we got to catch the bus, and you can't be late for the bus. Like it's our team bus, but us as teammates, like we don't really wait. Like, early is on time. So you couldn't be late for the bus. Bus left at 6 a.m. And then it was about a 30-minute drive down from USC to the Port of LA. And then we would have practice on the water for about 2 hours. And then we'd leave the boathouse usually around either 9:15 or 10:15, and then get back to campus at 10 or 11 a.m. So we weren't allowed to have classes scheduled before 10 a.m. or 10 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. Tuesday, Thursday. So obviously, like, that was tough with scheduling because especially in engineering, like, you don't really have so many options in terms of which classes you can take. It's not like, oh, choose from this list of 10 classes, like pick 5. Like, it was like, you have to take this class, and it's probably only offered at 2 times. So class conflicts were huge. But anyways, so we would get back to campus and then have class probably at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And then we had weights, so 2-hour weights from 12 to 2. So yeah, 12 to 2 was in the weight room on campus. And then after that, I would have more class probably in the afternoon and then go home in the evening.
Okay, so you have to explain to everybody, what is it like being an athlete at USC? I mean,
Yeah,
that
I
gym,
mean,
the gym looks. I mean, I know there's a couple of gyms on campus for the average folks like us, but the athletic gym is like a different experience. And did you have like an athletic table for food as well, like nutrition wise?
yeah. So we have Little Galen, which I have to say is amazing. The chefs there are great. So yeah, fortunately, like this past year has been really great. So we used to get like breakfast at Little Galen, so that they would make omelets and everything, and there was like smoothies. So they really wanted to keep us well fed and like healthy. So that was amazing. But then this past year, they actually added like lunch, so we could also grab lunch there, which was amazing. And then usually you can take some home, like they have takeout boxes and you can take some home for dinner as well. Because I think what a lot of people realized is like how important nutrition really is for athletes. And I think it honestly made a huge difference on our team performance wise, because a lot of the girls on our team, a lot of the women weren't having enough time to really eat. And so, if you're coming home late from classes or whatnot, and you have a lot of homework, like you're not going to spend a lot of time cooking yourself a healthy meal. So it impacted performance. And so this past year, we actually did really well compared to our previous years performance wise. And I think a lot of that was attributed to the nutrition and like the available lunch and dinner that they were providing us.
You always hear what kind of support do they give athletes academically, or when you're going to the program, they must know you have a very difficult major. Do they ever say, hey, you know what, Olivia, we're going to offer you, if you want tutoring, or what is there other things that they can offer you? And did that help you? Or how did you manage your stress?
Yeah, they have. Yeah, so there's free tutoring for athletes, and the tutors are actually other peers. So non-athletic, like they can't be an athlete, but so it could have been like upperclassmen who are not involved with athletics, but they were all students who were our tutors. So yeah, every semester each team has a academic counselor, and so he or she is pretty much involved with just making sure everybody stays on track academically and that they have all the support and the help that they need. So yeah, we have an athletic, it's a learning center. I forgot the name for it, but essentially it's a building, and they have like a computer lab in there and study rooms, and that's where we have the tutoring. So yeah, they have great resources for us and great facilities. And then as I was saying, like at the beginning of every semester, you can say what classes you want to tutor for, and then your academic counselor would work on finding you that tutor and making sure you're all set up. And so you have weekly meetings with your tutor, and then yeah, they can help you with whatever you need in that class.
Do you think that the student ratio in terms of your classes, in terms of professor and student ratio, did it make a difference that you were in a smaller classes because of the environment at USC? I mean, could you tell the difference in terms of quality of learning?
Yeah, definitely. I think like I definitely had some classes that, were bigger lectures, chemistry, biology, but the engineering classes itself were usually like 30 students or so. So I really liked that mid-size kind of class because, you get collaboration, you get to know you get the opportunity to get to know your classmates because, we probably had most of our classes together. So I liked that it wasn't too small that, you don't get exposure to too many people, but I liked that it wasn't so large that, the teacher doesn't even know your name. So yeah, I think that was really beneficial for all of our engineering classes, just to be able to have that more like one-on-one approach with your professor.
So if I asked you, hey, if you have to give advice to folks out there that want to get into engineering, they're either in elementary school or high school, or parents may be listening, what advice would you give to them to help support their kids pursue education or their education in terms of going into engineering or the sciences?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately, it comes down to passion. And I think that like how passionate you are for engineering really makes a difference. And like, I think I want to think about this one for a little bit, but sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's a difficult question, and I know that's there's something that, like you said, I think passion is really important in any job that you have.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, when you apply Diversify, I guess the question is, how do you keep that passion going? Like, why were you so passionate about pursuing engineering and the sciences when a lot of society don't typically think of women as engineers? There's that typical stereotype of like women can't be engineers or they're not good in math. How did you overcome that? And like you said, your parents really pushed you. Did they say, hey, you're going to get into sciences, or how did you develop that passion?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that my parents played a huge part in it just because they never said you can't do this. Like, I think that they showed me, number one, by example, that I could do it. And I think that's huge. Just like my mom being in the sciences and then, my dad being an engineer, and they never ever said anything about like, oh, because you're a girl, you can't do this. Like they were always super supportive. And I think like being surrounded by people who show you by example that you can be an engineer or, you can be in the sciences it never made me feel like I couldn't do it, So I guess, yeah, in terms of parents out there, like, I think just always being supportive and if you can show by example, that's wonderful. If not, like just having the resources to surround, your kid with examples or role models in the field show you that you can do that.
Did you ever have a time when you were studying at USC that it was a difficult time for you? Like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna get through this class, or I don't know if I can balance doing my sports and this. Were there ever some stressful times for you that you were like, I don't know if I can do this or not? Or have you always been this confident?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, you know, even now I still struggle sometimes with time management and being able to fit everything. There were definitely times like this past year when, we had to travel for races and I would have to miss class. We wouldn't really have time at all to do homework and to like catch up on lectures. And, it's really great that this past year, we've been doing Zoom recordings. So you don't really lose that much content, but in years previous, before there was all the Zoom, and you wouldn't have anything besides maybe the lecture notes if that was available to you. So I think in college there was definitely times when rowing would seem to take priority over school, and that was really tough for me because I didn't like feeling like I was falling behind. But ultimately, I think like having good communication with teachers, like letting them know ahead of time that I'm going to be missing this, these days, and to try to just be proactive about the situation really helped.
What was your relationship like with some of your professors? Did you get to know some of your professors pretty well, and were they supportive of you?
Yeah. I would definitely say I wish I got a little bit like closer to my professors. Most of them, like they all knew that I was on the rowing team, so they were definitely very supportive of me. And it's funny, I even like this past season, my voice actually like got really raspy because of coxing. Like that's essentially part of my role. And so it did kind of affect classes, like in discussions. I wouldn't always be able to participate because I was on like vocal rest for some time. But they were always very supportive. And so I think that really helped. And they liked that I was proactive about things. Like that's something that our rowing coach taught us, is to just always be ahead of situations instead of reactive. So I think that they really liked that I would notify them pretty much as far in advance as possible of anything.
And you kept saying you're a coxswain. You have to explain what that is to everybody.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I forgot to get back to this one. So a coxswain is essentially like the coach that's in the boat. So the rowers are facing backwards, essentially. They're facing, like if you have a race, a start line and a finish line, they're facing the start line. They can't see the finish line, but the coxswain can see the finish line. So you're essentially like the brain that's in the boat. You're the one who's coordinating your boat and like telling them what the race plan is, how you're going to execute it. And so I always like to think of a coxswain is like a jockey. It's like you have your horse, but you're the one that's controlling it. So we have our rowers who are, so strong, and they're putting everything out there, but they can't see anything. They don't know what's going on around them. You're the one that has to tell them that. So I think it's a very unique and a very interesting role. And I think it has really helped me in life and in the work industry as well.
So your sister, did she do the same thing?
Yeah.
Both of them? Yeah. And so how do you prepare for something like that? Again, it seems like this is the technical part of it, but you said that you're like coaching. What are you saying? I mean, like, how do you, I mean, I don't know where I would begin. I'd probably just say, speed up. I mean, I think the average person would say that. Like, what are you doing in there?
Yeah. So, I mean, you are constantly essentially their coach, right? So you watch them for how they're rowing. You can critique them on their technique. You can tell them, my job is to make the boat faster, right? So anything that I see that can help us make the boat faster, I'm going to let them know. So it's like this constant feedback kind of, and also motivation, obviously, for them to keep going. So, you can say anything from, motivational calls to technical calls on races, like you're the eyes. So like your rowers are not looking at anything except for the woman that's right in front of them. And so you're the only one who can look out and see where your opponent is, what's your opponent doing. And then you decide, I decide, like, what are we going to do about it? Like, are we going to, make a move, which essentially is, like counterattacking, or, I don't know. That's probably not the best word, but yeah, like what's the strategy? So that's essentially what you're talking about.
You have to kind of almost know the strengths of your team, so
Oh,
you know when to make the move.
definitely.
Because if you make the move too early, you may not be able to make it to the end. Actually, at the
Spot
end,
on.
okay. So how do you determine that?
Spot on. It's totally about knowing your rowers. So in rowing, like, it's cheesy, but it is the ultimate team sport, because anything that you do, like, you have to do it together. If one person, like, say I know this one woman in my boat, she's really motivated by this one call, but I call it too often or something, or call it too early, and it's not going to work later on. So you really need to know each person, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and bring it all together.
Wow, that's amazing. And then, do people critique you too? I'm sure you have a lot of pressure. I'm sure you have a lot of pressure on you too, because like, you're not doing this right, or you're not doing this right. So you have a lot of pressure because you want to study. Do you have to study the other crews? I assume if I'm going to go row against a Stanford or a Berkeley, you have to go study your opponent. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say you have to, because ultimately, like, your crew best and how you're going to make your crew go. But as a coxswain, I think all coxswains out there like to study other crews too, and just know, like, find out, what you can about them. But ultimately, it comes down to your crew and how you can bring out the best in your boat.
So I have to ask you, what is, I assume you're rowing at some point against UCLA. What's that called? Is that like I know they have, for swimming, it's a big splash, right? Right. And so all the big game for football, what do they call it for rowing?
It's the Crosstown Cup.
And then how has USC, do they win most of the time?
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on you too. I bet that's a lot of pressure the night before with that.
Yeah,
So
we had a 18-year winning streak.
wow.
Yeah.
So who won the last one, your senior year?
USC.
Oh, no way. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So okay, so when you graduated, I know that you ended up, you got a great job. And so you're at your current job, what is your role there now?
Yeah, I'm a quality engineer. So yeah, I work with the operations quality team, and essentially I'm overseeing like a product line, one of the product lines that we have here at Stryker, and yeah, looking after the quality of that product line.
And you said it's a lot of medical equipment, you said, huh?
Yeah.
And so I know, and I want to get into this for sure. You have a second job. And
I'm involved.
If you could talk about that, I really love that.
Yeah. So I'm involved with this program called Engineering Tomorrow. And I kind of just, I found it from like a middle school teacher, one of my middle school teachers actually. But essentially it's this program where it brings a whole bunch of engineers. So engineers who are currently working in the field, and we lead these engineering courses for high school students across the country. And the program is unique because it's completely free for the student, and for the teachers, for the schools. They really just have to sign up for it, and then Engineering Tomorrow will coordinate to have one of the engineers, so myself or one of the other plenty of engineers that we have across the nation, to come in to the teacher's classroom via Zoom, and then we lead these sessions for the students. And so these engineering labs, like, they're super fun. Like, they're like, you're building bridges, you're learning about like drug delivery, it's like learning about space and 3D printing. Like, it's not your typical engineering. So that's what I really love about it. I love that it's really fun and creative. And then Engineering Tomorrow will send like each student a kit for that lab. So, if they're building bridges, then they get this little kit for all the like wood material that they'll need to use. So it really allows anybody, like any student from any background, like to participate in these labs and to get exposure to both engineering and an actual engineer.
So how does that work? I mean, when they're putting it together, how do you know if they're doing it right? You said you send out these, it's all free, so it's all, and so I know it really, really is to foment interest in, in the sciences and engineering,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, STEM. So how do you talk them through this? I know you make it fun, but how do you know if they're doing it right, or how does it work?
Yeah. So how the program works is there's 3 sessions. So when a teacher or whoever signs up for, like, say, the Bridges lab, they'll be signing up for 3 sessions. So the first session is like an introduction to the topic, and it's led by an engineer. And then in that session, like, they'll give you background about whatever the topic is, and then they'll give you the instructions for what you're going to be doing in the lab. And then the engineer is not actually there when the students do the lab, but they have like the student workbook, which so far, to my understanding, has been pretty self-explanatory. Like I'll get back to that in a second. But so the teacher will help the students do the lab, and then midway through, these are usually like a week long or so. So midway through, maybe like on a Wednesday, then they'll have a call with college mentors. So we have also a team of these college students in engineering all across the nation. And I think it's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 college students will drop into this high school class, and the high schoolers can ask them any questions. If they have questions on the lab, then the college mentors will help them. If they have questions about what is it like to be an engineer in college, or what's your college experience like, they can talk about anything. And it just provides them another resource to somebody who, is not so far in the future from them. And then finally, once they complete the lab, then there's a wrap-up session, probably on like a Friday. And then another engineer, it doesn't have to be the same engineer as the first one, will come and do a wrap-up. So we'll have like a discussion. What did you think of the lab? Like, how was the process? Anything that you would change in the lab, or any questions? And then we have some wrap-up slides. So we'll talk to them about like these are the competitive wages, if you wanted to get into it, just to spark some interest and some knowledge there. And then, show them any additional related information. And then, of course, lots of time for questions.
And do you have different labs for every grade? So does it start 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th? How does it work?
No, there's no differentiation for grades. So any high school class, like 9th grade, 12th grade, any can sign up for any of these labs.
And then is there a set number? You have like 4 different projects. You said, what are the projects? You said bridges.
There's like, shoot, I should definitely know this number, but there's definitely like around 15. There might even be like 20.
Wow.
There's a lot. If you go to the engineering, there's a website. It's engineeringtomorrow.com or .org. Let me see. But anyway, engineeringtomorrow.org. They have like all of the list of the different topics that you can sign up for, and information.
And so so if the engineering.org, the professors or the principals have to go there, or the teachers, and they contact them, and they can sign them up, and they would send out the materials to them.
Yeah. So anybody, whether it's the teachers or the principals, I think primarily it's been teachers who sign up for it. And then it's really easy. Like, they can just go to the website, and then I think there's just a form that you can fill out. You say like what lab you want. And it's really convenient, because it's not like we have times that we say, oh, this lab is going to be at 12 o'clock or whatever. The teachers actually say, my class starts at 10:13 a.m. and so I want you to start at 10:13, and we make that happen. Like, we will accommodate to the teacher's schedule and be there for their period. So yeah, it's super easy. They just sign up for whatever lab they want and say what time and what school they're on.
Olivia, I don't know if you can answer this or not. You may not be able to. Is what if some of the schools, they don't know about it, or say one or two students from the school want to do it. Do they have to go to the school, or is it just designed that way?
I'm not really sure about in terms of individuals. I'd have to ask about that. I think, we'd be happy to leave these labs for anybody, but I'm not really sure what the sign up process would be like.
See, I always have some trick questions in there. So, yeah. So sorry, I gave you some of those trick questions.
No worries.
But it's amazing that you volunteer to do this yourself, because it's like ever since I've known you, you're like so dedicated to Oakland and to the Bay Area and to the community. I mean, you lived in LA for those 4 years, and you immediately came back to the Bay. And I remember when I called you, and you said, "Fig, I wanted to come back to the Bay Area. It's my home." And
yeah,
and you're always you're definitely an Oaklander forever. And and I know you're just super directed. I love that about you. You always have a lot of energy and a lot of spirit. So let me ask you. I get to ask you some fun questions now.
Okay.
And by the way, you've done a great interview, by the way. I think I only stumped you once. So
yeah.
So let me ask you. So what do you like to do in your spare time now, Miss Engineer?
Yeah, well, I think that I always like some relaxation. So I love sleeping, which is funny, but I always make sure I have time for sleeping. And then just like I like, just spending time watching TV, watching Netflix shows. And then I think one other thing is I really like playing games. So like card games, board games. So in college, I really liked playing like different games with my friends.
Like what? What's your favorite game?
We played a lot of Bananagrams.
What is that?
What? It's kind of like Scrabble. It's like a word game.
I'll look that up. Bananagram. Okay, and now favorite food. Guilty
this
pleasure.
One's always been tough. I honestly can't say I have a favorite food.
Okay. So name a couple of them.
Okay. I mean, well, can I name a cuisine?
Of course.
Okay. Well, I think I have a favorite cuisine. I just don't have a favorite food, but I really like Taiwanese food. And
then, like, what kind of dishes? Give us the best dishes. If somebody out there, or if somebody's gonna go to Taiwan soon, what's the best dishes they have?
One off the top of my head, they just have like this. It's like braised. Oh my god, everybody's gonna hate me for this because I'm probably not describing it correctly. But it's like braised meat over rice, and usually there's like an egg with it, and it's nothing fancy, but it's so good.
You just love it. Your favorite dessert?
I like tiramisu. I don't know if it's my favorite.
And I know you like traveling. So tell me where your favorite places you've traveled to, and some of the places you want to go.
Yeah. Okay. I think one of my favorite places I've been to is Morocco. I think that was like an astonishing trip, just because like it's I think it kind of goes back to the whole diversity thing. Like it's just a whole completely different like culture and environment, and it was just so amazing to see. And then obviously just being in that environment was so cool. We got to like ride some camels, which you will never do here. So super fun experience. And then in terms of places I want to go, I want to go to Cape Town in South Africa.
Oh, that's amazing. And let me see. Okay, what would the older self tell the younger self advice-wise?
Okay. I think just trust your path in life. I think would be my piece of advice. Like, I think there's, like this summer when I was like looking for a job and stuff, like it was sometimes there's always these like tough patches where you don't really know what's in front of you. And I think like this summer was definitely the like most predominant showing of that, I guess you could say. But I think just like trusting that there's a path there for you and that you'll find it. You just gotta keep going, I guess.
If you were one superhero, who would you be?
I don't know, Wonder Woman?
Oh yeah, good choice. Good choice. If you could meet one person, and it can be anywhere, it can be in the past or now, who would it be and what would you say?
One person what?
So if you could meet one person in the world, either it could be in any time in history or it could be somebody alive.
Meet somebody?
Yeah. Who would it be and what would you say to them?
Well, okay, there's this one like influencer on Instagram that I really like. Her username is Chelsea Kawai. And I mean, I would just love to meet her. I think she's really inspirational in terms of what she does. She's a photographer, videographer, and she also is really like passionate about the environment and so I would love to meet her because she's been to amazing places, and I think she also has really great ideas about the world and about life.
And this is, I always tell people this. I know everybody wants to live forever, but we're not going to. So I'm just going to ask you this: when you're no longer, when you're no longer on this earth, when you're gone, when people mention your name, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as somebody who is able to make an impact on other people's lives. I think that's probably the only real thing that you can do to like really leave a legacy. We used to talk a lot about legacy, like in rowing on our team, like what we wanted our legacy to be on the team. But I think in general in life, like I think if you're able to influence others, like help others, that goes a long way.
Well, Olivia, I want to tell you thank you for so much for being on. Like I told you, you're such an inspiration, and I really love the fact that, you're so, for all the negative things we hear about certain places, then you have such a wonderful person like yourself come out of it. And it just goes to show that no matter what situations that you're in, hard work, passion for what you do, and your commitment to the community really, really stands out. So just really honestly, thank you for being here today. I'm very, very appreciative.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And you know what? And all I can tell you is, keep eating good food and traveling. All right.
Yes, I will. I hope to.
And yeah. So anyway, Joy, if you like the podcast, join us next time for our next amazing guest. Olivia, thank you so much for being here, and we'll have to catch you in like 5 or 6 years from you. Get you back on the podcast, and you have to catch us up with your life.
All right.
Till next time, everybody, keep learning.